Kangaroo stay over there. This is Irene, and Irene, who is he manhandling over there, or should I say kangaroo handling?
This is whoops. This is Killer Willard. I guess I can assume the boxing kangaroo.
Yeah.
Whoop. Wait a minute. All right, just a minute. Can we have an interview? Can you take him over there a minute, please? Well, this is Killer Willard, and this is my husband.
Hello, today I am doing somewhat of a long-term review of this, the Fallkniven K2 White Whale kitchen knife. So, must preface this by saying I'm by no means an expert at cooking, at kitchen knives, at much to do with this at all. We've purely got this and used it as one of our house kitchen knives. As such, I'll do things in this review that a professional chef would probably wince at, and things that a kitchen knife reviewer would probably tut at. All that sort of stuff I hope you can put aside and take this for a normal-ish person's account of how this has been for us. So I'll take it down to the tabletop. I'll be able to show you some other knives next to it and talk a bit more about what's good about the Fallkniven K2 White Whale kitchen knife. So this is the knife here. So this is a, what are we looking at, 175mm blade. The blade is 2.5mm thick. The total length of the knife is 305mm long. Let's look at it next to my other sort of chef's knife that I got. I decided I wanted to invest in a couple of decent kitchen knives. So I got the Spyderco first, which I have really enjoyed. You can see my review on that one too. And then I also have this Victorinox Ferox, which is kind of like our beta kitchen knife and was probably the first sort of half decent-ish kitchen knife we got. Kitchen knives, it's interesting. Some people will just always have like a $10 kitchen knife. They'll use it, maybe sharpen it a couple of times, then just bin it and get another one. I guess much like any tool, you can get a hammer just the one time. If you just need a hammer to hang up one thing on one day, you can get a $10 one, or you can get a $70, $80 one if you plan on using it all the time and, I don't know, getting some enjoyment out of using it. Whatever. Whatever you do is up to you, and live your life with intent and you will be happy. No worries. So yeah, these are the kind of two, I guess, pricey ones we've got. They're actually fairly different in terms of how they feel and how they use, even though they are kind of the same thing, like a large, all-purpose kitchen knife, vegetables, meat, all that sort of stuff. So the Spyderco and the Fallkniven, what they have similar about them, they're both made in Japan, they both use VG10 steel, they're both about the same thickness, although the Fallkniven is a little bit taller than the Spyderco, just a touch, and therefore has just a little bit more thinness behind the edge when compared to the Spyderco. The Fallkniven is also convex ground, whereas the Spyderco is flat ground. Even though both are VG10, the Fallkniven has laminated VG10, so there's a lamination line there. So everything below this line here is VG10, and everything above it, well, on the outside anyway, is a softer stainless steel, like a 400 series stainless. So that's designed to make the knife, a bit more resistant to lateral stresses, and also a little bit more rust resistant, ideally. The handle of the Fallkniven is made of the thermoiron plastic that Fallkniven uses on a lot of their knives, and the Spyderco has a Corian handle, which is like a type of super hard, super resistant, shiny black plastic. Pretty common on kitchen knives as well. With regards to the blade on the K2, so the VG10 on this was ground really, really thin in a convex fashion. So convex ground all the way down to the very edge. The edge with me has probably become a little bit more of a V edge because I've resharpened it twice. The first time I resharpened it on the Tormek, and frustratingly enough, I was on the Tormek and then the door slammed and gave me a bit of a start just as I was passing this part here. There is a slight extra bit of angle on one part of the edge, so it'll take me a little bit to catch that up with normal sharpening. So since then I've sort of resolved to just convex sharpen it using the work sharp belt but freehand. So just putting as steep an edge as I can on it, and that's gradually going to work its way up to this imperfection here. It's purely a visual imperfection, it doesn't affect cutting at all. The thinness of the blade is just paramount to its performance, and this is so thin and so keen. This really feels like, especially when I got it, it felt like one of the sharpest things in general that I've ever had. Really, really laser-like sharpness. Excellent cutter initially, and it remains an excellent cutter, even with my pretty basic kitchen knife sharpening skills. The VG10 is a little bit rust prone, but this is, as I said at the start, normal people use. So I'm not the only one using it. I'm probably the one that cares the most about this knife in the house. All the other folks in the house will kind of pick it up, use it, maybe forget to wipe it off, put it in the sink, submerge it in water for a bit. All that stuff that happens just with the kitchen knife when not everyone is on board with treating it like, you know, the $210 item that it is. But that's fine. It's good wear and it's good use of it, and it sort of shows you guys how it might hold up. So maybe on the screen I'll show you how it looked when it first got here, and then now you can sort of see maybe on the other side that it's actually quite cloudier, the finish now. The stainless steel on the outside, the cladding steel, seems to scuff up pretty easily, and probably a combination with the green scourer pads that sometimes get used on this as well has caused the surface to be exposed probably a little bit more to rust. So that's probably why I've had some little orange rust spots form on it, but they've all easily come off when I've treated it with EDCI or WD-40 if it's a little bit deeper. That and a rough tea towel has gotten pretty much all the rust out of it that's ever had. So there's that. It's a really good performing blade. The Santoku tip's just a little bit safer, a little bit less likely to jag on things. But if you keep the edge sharp right to the tip, you can still use it to pierce cut most, you know, clamshell packages and that sort of stuff that, hey, surely all of our wives will use our kitchen knives for at some point unless they carry their own knives. But it still does, you know, opens meat packages and vegetable packages just fine as well. Kitchen utility is definitely part of that. You see here, just here, these lines here, it's from the buffing wheel. Just buffed a little bit much the last time, probably went back a ways. That'll probably wear out, or it won't. I'm not too bothered. This is definitely a tool, not to be kept pretty, but a tool to use in our house. And it is an absolute pleasure to use. $210 may seem ridiculous to spend on a knife, and lots of people will come out the woodwork telling me to seek like a proper kitchen knife brand and spend, you know, half of that for the same steel and the same price. But you know what? Part of it was going with what I knew, and I know Fallkniven pretty well. Some of my favorite outdoor knives are Fallkniven knives. This is my Fallkniven F1 outdoor knife, and this is a really, really well-made, rugged, robust survival knife. While the purposes are completely different, the elements are kind of the same. Laminated VG10 thermo-run plastic, so they have sort of checkered it and added grip here, and this is just smooth thermo-run. But the great thing about these materials are, I know them, and I know that Fallkniven does them well. Thermo-run is a great handle material, and the handle on this knife is fantastic actually. Thermo-run seems to get grippier as it gets wetter. It does not have any adverse effects to being wet at all. Really, really comfortable in the hand. Really nice and rounded. Index finger notch. Obviously the knife beard or whatever you would call it comes down far enough so there's no risk of your hands on the knife. It's a kitchen knife. That's obvious. I think most kitchen knives come with that. But this one's particularly safe. And yeah, the handle tapers back, just slightly, forming a slight hook, you know, just to keep the hand in place without keeping you, you know, locked in like as if you were, you know, wearing some trench knuckles or anything like that. There is a hanging hook or a lanyard hole, I guess you could call it, but I guess you could just hang this from, you know, all sorts of hooks in your kitchen or whatever. We just keep this on the dish rack. Really, it's used so much we don't really have a place for it. Probably need to look into getting like a magnetic block of some sort. But yeah, handle-wise, blade-wise, it's just excellent. Look, I've really enjoyed having this knife. Between this and the Spyderco, which probably end up both, but no, the Spyderco is probably a little bit cheaper. The Spyderco is probably about $170 to get it here. The Fallkniven I got from Knife Shop Australia for $210. I think I prefer it to the Spyderco. The Spyderco has just a couple of little sharper edges that I feel like I notice a bit more. Just the slight bit of grab there on that really sharp tip there, almost a bit of a point. You can sort of almost cut yourself on it, and I found myself catching it on the tea towel when I've wiped it down before. The corian of the handle has, I think just through general heat and whatnot, just formed a little bit of a roughness down here, which I probably just, it doesn't really affect the use of the knife, but it's just something I notice from time to time. Everything else is pretty flush. That's just something that's happened. I could probably polish that away if I was too bothered. I'm not too bothered. But in general, I think I do prefer the Santoku tip as well. Just feels less jabby, less pokey. I don't do a lot of piercing with my kitchen knives. It is mainly just slicing meat, veggies and fruit and whatnot. So overall, although I'd really recommend both, I think I do prefer the K2. And as I said, and I think I get this comment every time I talk about spending anything on anything really, but yeah, if you are part of, cheap kitchen knife forever gang, then by all means, have a good time. Spend your money on other stuff, whatever. But if you're after something that you kind of want to have a little bit of pride in, a little bit of enjoyment using, I think this is a great choice. It's almost too nice when you first get it though. It's really hard to start just using it. But as long as you're happy to use something that you've spent this much money on, because you will use it, then for sure, go ahead and grab it. I mean, I've got pocket knives that I've spent heaps more on that I use heaps less, and I still kind of, because I'm not a kitchen knife guy, I kind of struggle with dropping the cash at first, but now I did, I'm really happy with it. It's an excellent knife. It's really well made. I can't think of a single thing wrong with it. I mean, the price is severe. You might be able to get something in a bit of a better steel than VG10, but just on that, VG10 for cutting basically only soft things, it lasts a good long time anyway. The only time you sharpen it is when, usually from mistakes. So from when cutting something and hitting a fork while you're cutting some meat or something like that. That's the sort of stuff that's gonna scuff your edge up and eventually need a treatment or a spa day or something in the shed. But really, for the kitchen knife use that it is, VG10 absolutely fine. So that's my K2 experience. It's great, and I recommend the knife. Just as I love my Fallkniven F1. Like my Fallkniven K2, a whole bunch. Alright guys, see you all in the next video. Hope you've enjoyed. Goodbye now.